Bog. Danas sam bio na liturgiji kod Otaca Adama Sekstona, to on je sveštenik u crkvi Svetog Andreja ovde u Richmondu, Virginiji. Otac ima 11 dece. Imao sam jedan intervju s njim koji ćete upravo da vidite, tako da jako veliki broj, pogotovo mladih momaka, prilazi pravoslavnoj veri. Neverovatno, znači ima na svakoj liturgiji vidim po 5-6 katakumena, znači ljudi koji se pripremaju se krste. Inače, Virginija je lepa država američka, gde nekad živelo preko 20 indijanskih plemena, čajani još puno njih, međutim sada od tih plemena nema ni traga ni glasa. S jedne strane, s druge strane, evo sad to je neko iskustvo gdje vidim da mnogi prilaze pravoslavlju, pogotovo posle korone. Sad ćemo da vidimo šta Otac ima da kaže.
Good evening. We're in Ashland, Virginia, in St. Andrew's Orthodox Church, and I'm sitting here with Father Adam Sekstone. And thank you very much, Father, for accepting to give few words to my Serbian brothers and sisters in Serbia, far away, but someone that is thinking of you guys, Orthodox people and Orthodox brothers and sisters here in America. So basically, my question will be. Can you give us 2 minutes about your parish? History. How did you came here and so forth?
It's a very interesting answer to that. My parish and many other parishes that are in America in today, maybe there was 200 parishes. I don't know how many. Began in the 70s or the 60s as a Jesus cult, like a Gnostic hippie Jesus cult, that they were very well organized, and they had men and women clergy, and they had mostly communal, everything was held in common. They had monastic communities within, but it was sort of New Age. This is before my birth. They encountered a monk in California. The leader of this cult encountered a monk in California and who told him about Orthodoxy. And he was fascinated, so he brought it to the people that he was there was hundreds of people.
What was the name of the monk?
Father Herman Podmoshinsky of blessed memory. He was the best friend of Father Seraphim Rose.
I see.
And he died maybe 10 years ago, maybe 9 or 10 years ago. I never got to meet him. But he, through many conversations with the leader of, I don't remember his name, brought these people into Orthodoxy. Now, I say Orthodoxy with a small o because somehow this Father Herman had found himself outside of the church, and he was under a bishop who was a fake bishop. Now, these people didn't know. The people who were learning about Orthodoxy, they didn't know that this bishop was fake. He was a priest from the Greek church who had been deposed from the priesthood, but he created himself a fake diocese, and so he had all these people under him, and he was very charismatic. This bishop, fake bishop, this man, and so these people learned about the church, how to do Orthodoxy, how to sing Orthodox music, and how to do all the Orthodox things, and they came together in an Orthodox manner. And they were ignorant of
the politics.
Of the politics. They didn't understand. And so maybe 10 to 15 years after this, they realized, gosh, nobody accepts us. Because everybody's like, no, you're not a real church. And so they all, many of them came under my diocese, the Orthodox Church in America, the Diocese of the South. at the time Archbishop Dimitri of blessed memory. He brought them in and accepted them, chrismated them properly, and baptized and chrismated them properly. And many of their clergy, he, after some instruction, ordained them to oversee their communities as priests. Now, many of them didn't go to seminary, but they'd been leading these people in an orthodox manner for some time, and so he brought in I don't know how many, and some of them, the ones who wanted to stay old calendar, they went with the Bulgarian Patriarchal Diocese. Most of them, the monasteries among them went under the Serbian Church in America. So Platina and St. Paisios in Arizona, the women's monastery. Several others, they went under the Serbian Church in America, interestingly. And my parish was one of those parishes that went into the Diocese of the South as a new calendar parish, the Gregorian calendar.
OCA, right?
OCA. And so from that point on, they've been... They moved here before they became properly Orthodox, but they've been here. In fact, the way where I found Orthodoxy myself, I was raised Roman Catholic. When people ask me what kind of a Russian I am, I tell them Irish Catholic Russian. And I discovered Orthodoxy through a bookstore downtown in Richmond that was run by this parish when they were still not canonical. And I was just so fascinated with them. And so this was, and I was fascinated with the way they loved each other. This parish, specifically this parish, like when we would visit, because they were interesting people. I tell people I was so pleasantly disturbed I had to come back after I encountered them. And this place, just the way, the Holy Spirit was so present among them. And the way that just the beauty of the worship. And no, when it came time for me, 2 years after that, I wanted to be Orthodox. I knew I wanted to become Orthodox. But I was a good Catholic, so I knew not to come under the non-canonical Orthodox Church. So I went to a different parish in the city and was received there, after some time. But St. Andrew's here was always my home. And during the intermittent time, they had become part of the canonical church, and everybody was legitimately Orthodox. And so this was always my home. This is always what we call the nest. And I would visit with my wife, I went to seminary eventually, and we would visit other parishes, and we would say, well, that was nice, but it was no St. Andrew's. So it was sort of the litmus test that we would compare what a good parish was. And when, I would always say, maybe one day the Lord will give me a parish like St. Andrew's, never even imagining that I would be sent home to this parish. This is my second parish. My first parish was in Pennsylvania, in a place called Nanticoke, but when I was between the parishes, I was like, man, I hope one day we'll find a nice parish that's like St. Andrew's. And I prayed for the Lord to give me a parish that was a good parish. And maybe 8 months later, I see that the priest here was leaving. His wife had some medical needs, and they had to move somewhere else where they were closer to hospitals that could treat her. And on Facebook, I saw her make that mention, and I said, where are you? Who's replacing Father at St. Andrew's? And she said, nobody yet. And I said, who do I call? And so 8 months after that, I was, the diocese here brought me in and put me here at St. Andrew's. That was 10 years ago.
Wonderful.
What a joy. This is, besides being the wife, the husband of my wife and the father of my children, this parish is the greatest joy of my life.
Oh, that's wonderful.
This
wonderful to hear. That's absolutely wonderful to hear. Father, I wanted to ask you. I'm trying to put together some book, Orthodoxy and Entrepreneurship, and I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what do you think about this division between the Orthodoxy and the business? And whether that's something divided, or is this, or should we consider business and all aspects of our life under the umbrella of God?
Well, it is a grievous mistake for anybody to do anything outside of God. If you are a believing person, especially an Orthodox Christian, any business dealings, first of all, should be honest, and without deceit. And any gains in business should be acknowledged that they're gifts from God. And the Lord gave men and women intelligence to conduct the life and business in a way that is upright. And if we are owners of a business, whatever business, doesn't matter, we should conduct that business as if the Lord was our customer, and treat everybody in a way that honors the image of Christ in them. So if we are a business owner who is dishonest, we are separating ourselves from Christ. If we are a business owner who conducts his business with grace and with humility, then we are honoring Christ in the people who we serve as who are our customers.
Thank you.
Everything we do should be under Christ.
Of course. Another question I wanted to ask you, Father, is how should we approach, and this is something advice firstly for me and then and further because I'm also sometimes I see myself advancing in that direction, but giving advices without being asked for, can sometimes be dangerous, and sometimes can be detrimental, especially if we didn't do any prayers before that. And what is your approach? What's the proper way of giving advices to people without being asked for?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I don't think it only remains in the business question. I think I have 11 children, and 6 boys and 5 girls. The oldest is a girl. And when she became 18, she left very abruptly, didn't finish school and left abruptly. And I said, well, maybe you shouldn't do that, but you're old enough to make your own decisions, and that's up to you. And she moved away from my house. And there had been some, not fighting, but there had been some tension between her mother and I, or her and her mother and I. Because children are small adults, and so and they make decisions that are different than we would have them do, and oftentimes because we've been children in the past, we know how to not make we see where this is going. Don't do that; it's not good for you. But I remember maybe 6 months, maybe 3 months after she left, and she was experiencing that life was very difficult. To go out and strike out on your own, it's not easy. And I remember, and it was probably my guardian angel, but I remember talking to her, and obviously I had advice for her, but I said to her, do you want to know what I have to say? Do you want my advice? Not in a condescending way, but in a, I see you're struggling, I don't want to give you advice unless you ask me for it, because you are your own person. And she said, oh, I want your advice, Daddy. But I had the understanding, I don't know where it came from God, from Christ, that don't just tell her what you think. Don't just tell her what she should do. She's a grown-up, or at least she thinks she is. She's a legal adult. I don't know if she's a grown-up, but she needs she needs to perceive that she's come to you and with the need for your advice. And I think that honestly, I've applied that, it's been many years now, but I've applied that to almost everything. I don't just offer advice anymore. Okay, a priest in confession might give advice, but that's a little different. But, because when somebody is coming for confession, they are, you must assume they're coming for some advice. There has been a lot of times where I have applied that same approach, ask them first if they want it, because if you find that they don't want it, you might offend them. They might be out of sorts with you, or they might take your advice and it wasn't right for them because maybe you didn't know all of their details, and you could be giving good advice just like medicine, if you give it in the wrong dose, you could kill someone. Your good advice might be the direction that sends them off the rails, unless you know all the details that you need to know to give the advice. So, it's more of a reciprocity. I need, you have, I give, you need. Like it's a mutual. It's a sharing thing. Even then, God is involved. Because we enter into that. It's a relationship. We enter into that together. I have advice for you.
Yes.
I would like your advice.
Yes.
So.
Thank you so much for your time, Father. We very much appreciate it. Maybe you want to say a final word for us and advice and for others.
There is, and I tell people this all the time, and I always will, but it's very easy to live the right way and to be someone in the church. You show up and you tell the truth. That's all it takes to be a priest, is to show up and tell the truth. That's all it takes to be a Christian, is to show up and tell the truth. Anything good that happens from showing up and telling the truth is Christ. We don't bring much to the table. We're fallen. We most of us are a mess, but we show up and we tell the truth. That's all the Lord needs to do miraculous things. So you might not think that you have a lot to offer, but show up anyway and tell the truth. And there is nothing that is to fear beyond that.
Very simple, but very deep.
I'm very simple.
Yes, it is. Indeed, it's pretty deep stuff. And thank you so much for your love and your time. And
bless you, absolutely.
We'll hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely, I hope so.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.